This week, something that constantly have been on my mind is priorities. Priorities, by definition, means that if you do something, then something else cannot be equally important. That is the definition of a priority. So if you say you want to prioritize doing your business, and then you go partying instead, then partying all of a sudden become your priority. Meaning, if you want to grow your business and that is your number one priority, if you also want to date or you want to train, the time that you train means that is more important than your business. So what I've realized is that I cannot add more stuff into my calendar unless I also remove something. Because adding something does mean that it takes time for something else. With New Year's resolution, a lot of people say they want to go to the gym, but the thing is that you cannot just add more. If you want to go to the gym, that maybe take all in all with shower and transportation 2 hours. Those 2 hours, where do you take those from? What are you doing normally that you will not do anymore? This could be scrolling, Netflix, whatever time it is. You simply can just not add more hours. You have 24 hours in a day. Preferably you sleep 6 to 8 hours. So where do you get the 2 extra hours squeezed in for training that you all of a sudden want to do? And this leads back to priorities. So what is you want to prioritize? And then you need to make a list. What is your number one priority? What is your second priority? And what is your third priority? Whatever it is, you just need to be clear that either you go all in on one priority and that is all you do 18 hours a day, or you also leave room for your mental health, for your physical health, to train, to see your friends. And the one thing with priorities and friends is I hear a lot of people saying they lose friends on their way up. This makes sense in the way that if you prioritize doing X, you may know that you say no to an invitation, and then all of a sudden you start getting out of the loop of being invited. And that is something I struggle with right now, just saying the number one priority is growing my business and not saying yes to friends that I actually want to go to. Because the hard part is not attending a party you didn't even want to go to. The hard part is saying no to things that you actually want to do. And saying no to friends that you actually want to hang around with is something that I struggle with right now because I, on one hand, really want to keep some of my friends, so I don't want to say no to them, but I also have greater priorities in seeing them right now. But I also need to understand that this may be a temporary situation, and if they're real friends, they also understand that. The last thing on my mind talking about priorities is temptation. There's this analog about the women in the red dress from Matrix. So the analog is that the agent walked through a lot of men in suits, and then all of a sudden a woman in a red dress passes by, and then he turns around looking at her, looking straight again, and then they stop, saying turn around, and when he turns around there's a gun to his head. And the woman in the red dress is obviously a temptation, you can say. And the only thing is, when you start to grow, you may have more success, you may have more money, more fame, whatever it is, you may be more trained, then I'll presume that the temptation is also harder. So if you're having a hard time saying no to the temptation now, I will only presume that it will be harder to do in the future and something I truly need to work on, as I cannot even say no to temptations now, the degree that I want to. Hence, I also believe that it's hard for me to do if I don't develop that skill of saying no now. The next thing on my diary is learning rates. And it may be quite simple, but actually reframe the way I think about learning new things. So learning retains in different rates, or you can say in pyramids. So if you imagine you have a pyramid, at the bottom you have listen. If you listen to something, you only retain 5%. If you read it, you retain 10%. If you combine the two, you retain around 20%. And this is where most people stop. Most people stop by only gaining more information, let it be reading, listening, or combining the two. And I know this from myself. I brain root myself by scrolling on social media and then procrastinating and saying to myself, it's gaining information or learning about the topic, let it be content, let it be training, or whatever, sales. That if we go to the top of the pyramid where you really retain new skills, that is applying and practice it, that is where you retain 75%. So if you look at sales, if you really want to do sales, you can read all the books and all the podcasts that you want, but you'll truly only learn it when you start doing the cold calls or the door-to-door. So don't think about learning sales and I need to retain all this information. Just see it as, well, it's a learning curve, and if I want to learn as much as possible, as fast as possible, then I should just do it. It's all about behavior. And then the last step is teaching others. So if you really have gained a lot of skills, and then you should teach other in a course or workshop or whatever it be. It can also be applied to school. If you have something information here about the teacher saying it, then you have to practice actually doing your equation. And if you have to tell somebody else what you did, that is when you know whether you have mastered and actually understand what it is. So that is my focus right now, is remove something, back to priority, removing scrolling and gaining information, saying to myself, what are the things that I want to learn? What are the skills I want to acquire? And then start to apply it. I have two things. I have communication and I have sales. Those are the two skills that I want to be good at for 2026. Of course, I'll not be excellent because I'm just getting started. But doing this YouTube and talking to the camera, I'm learning a lot about communication, how to express myself, my vocabulary, my tonality. Tonality is a lot from what I've learned. How you breathe, how you express every word, how you go up in pitch, and how you go really down in pitch. But communication, I learned that by trial and error. I talk to the camera, I listen to it back, I see how I articulate, and then I look at the scripts. Further, by sales, there's one thing to do a lot of cold calls, do a lot of door to doors. And that is my two main skills I want to acquire for 2026. And that is what I'm going to do. The third thing on my diary is delusionally confident. And I heard this analog about Ilia Topuria, who is a Spanish UFC fighter. And what he did was he had to come up against the Brazilian Oliveira, and he basically celebrated before he even won the fight. And I'm not sure if it was the same fight, but in his Instagram bio, he already said world champion and 50-0 before he even won the match. So he has visualized and manifested the fact that he won already. He rewired his identity and he was so certain that he was going to do it that he did it. He did it the exact way that he wanted to do it. And that is just a proof that things happen twice. First time in your imagination and second time in real life. So if you cannot imagine your goal and if you don't believe in your goal, it will never happen. So firstly, you must imagine and visualize and manifest the goal before the universe will even manifest itself. And that is something I think about and I also talked about on last topic is I related it to Lando Norris, where he won his world championship. What stops you from obtaining what other people have? What stops you from being the next Formula One champion? If we relate it to business or being successful, what stops you from attaining that success? Nothing. It's up to you to get it. Nobody will hand it over to you and say, here is $100 million, go take it, go live your life. If you want that 100 million, you have to go out and earn it and attain it. Nothing stops you. Only yourself and only your actions. I talked about it last time. Desire doesn't change anything, behavior does. So a lot of people, I think most people will say yes if I said, here, will you have $1 million? Most people want that, but that is not how the world works. So a lot of people want something, but they don't want to take the action towards it. The behavior is the only thing that drives you towards your goal. If you want to go to the gym and you want to lose 20 kilos, you going to the gym tomorrow or you're not going to the gym. The desire does not change. Just believe so much in what you want to accomplish. It takes the behavior towards it, and I'm sure every dream you will have will be accomplished. The last thing I wrote on my diary, I try to keep this down to one page. That is building a team. Right now in my business, I'm alone and I have a lot of things to do, and I'm trying to figure out what will drive me the most forward. And that is a testing phase right now. And when I've done that, I just need to double down on that so I can gain clients, so I can gain some cash flow, and I can have some employees. Because what I really miss right now being self-employed, because starting a business and being employed by the business is not owning a business, that is the business owning you. And I want to own a business, but what I really want is to have a team where we can grind it out together. I really want to have somebody to share this journey with. I could get a partner or just get a team, because one thing is they take hours away from you so you can focus on what moves the business forward, but you can also grind it out and building with people you like. I know this from school. My personal experience is the long nights doing assignments. Yes, school was horrible, but it just made it better doing it with someone else rather than doing it alone. You can go fast if you go alone. You can go far if you go together. And that is my goal for 2026, is to build a really good team so we can grind it off together at least have one, two, or three employees who is willing to put in the work and grind it out with me. I just need to have a big enough vision that they want to get along on. The vision why people want to join you. I truly think that you must have something important that people want to work towards. And yes, that was the diary for this time. Still not any big master plan on where this is going. I try not to do it too overcomplicated and have a lot of B-rolls. And yes, I'm sure this won't get much views because it's just me talking and nobody takes necessarily some value from it. But hopefully, I talk about something that people actually find interesting. And at least I find it interesting to talk about priorities, how you retain your learning, how you become delusionally confident, and building a team. I relate it to myself, and I may not communicate it in the best way right now, but it'll be better. 1% better every day, and you'll be 37 times better in a year. Just remember that, and in a decade, you'll be extremely, extremely good. So that is it. Hopefully, you enjoyed this episode and leave any comments if anybody's watching. Otherwise, see you in the next one.